You had a plan. Wake up early, hit the gym, finish that report, maybe even clean the kitchen. And then you didn't. You watched 3 episodes of something you don't even like that much, scrolled for 40 minutes and told yourself you'd start tomorrow. And the worst part, this keeps happening over and over, and every time you feel a little worse about yourself, a little lazier, a little more broken. But here's what nobody tells you. You are not lazy. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And once you understand why, everything starts to make a lot more sense. For a long time, scientists believed procrastination was a time management problem. That people who procrastinate just don't know how to organize their schedule. So the solution seemed obvious: better planners, more to-do lists, stricter deadlines. And yet, for millions of people, none of that worked. Because they weren't wrong about time. They were trying to escape something else entirely. Something uncomfortable, something emotional. In 2013, researcher Fuskia Sirwa published a study that changed how we understand procrastination. She found that procrastination is not about avoiding the task. It's about avoiding the negative feelings associated with the task. The boredom, the self-doubt, the fear of failure, the anxiety of not knowing where to start. Procrastination is your brain's way of saying, I don't want to feel bad right now. And to understand why your brain does this, we need to talk about 2 specific parts of it. The first is the amygdala. It's a small, almond-shaped structure deep inside your brain, and its entire job is to detect threats and trigger emotional responses. Fear, stress, discomfort. That's the amygdala talking. The second is the prefrontal cortex. This is the outer layer of your brain right behind your forehead. It handles logic, planning, long-term thinking, and impulse control. It's basically the responsible adult in the room. Here's the problem. When the amygdala detects something uncomfortable, say, a difficult task you've been avoiding, it sends out a stress signal. And your prefrontal cortex, the rational part, gets overridden. Your brain switches from let's think about this logically to let's get away from this feeling as fast as possible. And what gets you away from the feeling fastest? Your phone, Netflix, anything that isn't the task. Think of it like a seesaw. On one side you have your emotional brain, reactive, fast, focused entirely on how you feel right now. On the other side you have your rational brain, slower, more strategic, thinking about future you and future consequences. Most of the time, in low-stress situations, these 2 are roughly balanced. But the moment a task triggers any kind of discomfort, and it doesn't take much, the emotional side slams down, the rational side flies up, and suddenly future you doesn't matter at all. Only right now matters. And right now you want to feel okay. This is not a character flaw. This is biology. The amygdala hijack, as psychologist Daniel Goleman called it, is a survival mechanism that kept your ancestors alive. The problem is that your brain can't tell the difference between a lion chasing you and a blank document. You don't know how to start. You've probably heard of the Stanford Marshmallow Experiment. In the late 1960s, psychologist Walter Mischel sat children down in a room, put a marshmallow in front of them and gave them a choice. Eat it now or wait 15 minutes and get 2 marshmallows. Some kids ate it immediately. Some waited. And the original conclusion was that kids who could wait had better self-control and went on to have better outcomes in life, higher SAT scores, better health, more stable relationships. But here's what the follow-up research actually showed, and this part is almost never talked about. The kids who waited didn't succeed because they had stronger willpower. They succeeded because they had better strategies for managing their attention. They covered their eyes, they sang to themselves, they turned away from the marshmallow. They didn't fight the urge, they redirected it. And that distinction matters enormously for how we think about procrastination. So if willpower isn't the answer, what is? Before we get to the solutions, let's talk about the 3 most common emotional triggers that cause procrastination, because knowing which one is yours changes everything. The first is task aversion. The task is boring, frustrating, or just genuinely unpleasant and your brain wants nothing to do with it. The second is self-doubt. You're afraid you'll do it wrong, that it won't be good enough, that starting means exposing yourself to failure. And so not starting feels safer than starting badly. The third is overwhelm. The task is so big, so undefined, so unclear where to even begin that your brain freezes entirely. It's not laziness, it's a system overload. Your brain genuinely doesn't know which thread to pull first, so it pulls none of them. Okay, so now let's talk about what actually works. And I want to be clear, these are not productivity hacks from a self-help blog. These are techniques backed by behavioral research, and more importantly, they work with your brain's biology instead of against it. The first is called the 2-minute rule, popularized by productivity researcher David Allen and later studied more formally in behavioral science. The idea is simple. If you want to start a task, commit to doing just 2 minutes of it, not the whole thing, not even a meaningful chunk, just 2 minutes. Open the document and write one sentence. Put on your workout shoes and walk to the door. The goal is not to complete anything. The goal is to break the amygdala's threat response. Because once you start, something interesting happens. The anxiety drops. The prefrontal cortex re-engages. And more often than not, 2 minutes becomes 20. Researchers call this the Zeigarnik effect. Once a task is started, your brain becomes motivated to finish it. The hardest moment is always before you begin. The second technique is called temptation bundling, and it comes from a study by behavioral economist Catherine Milkman at the University of Pennsylvania. Milkman noticed that people consistently avoided things they knew were good for them: exercising, studying, doing taxes, while consistently gravitating toward things that felt good in the moment. So she asked, what if you could only do the pleasurable thing while doing the necessary thing? In her experiment, she gave participants access to audiobooks they loved, but only while they were at the gym. The result? Gym attendance went up by 51%. The principle is simple. Bundle a task you're avoiding with something you genuinely enjoy. Only listen to your favorite podcast while doing chores. Only watch that show while folding laundry. Only have your favorite coffee while working on the hard project. You're not fighting the pleasure-seeking behavior. You're redirecting it toward the thing that needs to get done. The third technique is less about doing and more about feeling, and it might be the most powerful of the three. It's called future self-continuity, and it was developed by psychologist Hal Hershfield at UCLA. Hershfield discovered that when people procrastinate, they literally experience their future self as a stranger, as a different person who will deal with the consequences later. Brain scans showed that thinking about your future self activated the same neural regions as thinking about a completely different person, which explains why future you always seems fine with dealing with the mess current you is making. His solution was to make future you feel more real. Write a letter to your future self. Visualize specifically what tomorrow morning will feel like if you don't do the thing tonight. Name the feeling, not just "I'll be stressed," but "I will sit down at that desk tomorrow morning feeling behind, anxious, and already defeated before the day starts." The more vividly you can feel the future consequence, the less abstract it becomes, and the more your brain treats future you as worth protecting. So let's bring this all together. Procrastination is not laziness. It's an emotional regulation problem, your brain avoiding discomfort, not avoiding work. The amygdala detects a threat, hijacks your rational thinking, and sends you straight toward whatever feels good right now. And fighting that with pure willpower almost never works long-term, because willpower is a finite resource that depletes under stress, exactly when you need it most. What does work is understanding the trigger. Is it aversion? Use temptation bundling. Is it overwhelm? Use the 2-minute rule to make the starting point so small it can't feel threatening. Is it self-doubt and fear of failure? Use future self-continuity to reconnect with the real cost of waiting. You're not fixing a character flaw. You're rewiring a biological response. And that takes patience, not self-criticism. One last thing before you go. Research by self-compassion psychologist Kristin Neff found something counterintuitive. People who forgive themselves after an episode of procrastination are significantly less likely to procrastinate again on the same type of task. The self-criticism, the shame spiral, the "I'm so useless" inner monologue that doesn't motivate you. It feeds the exact emotional discomfort that caused the procrastination in the first place. Being kind to yourself is not an excuse. It's literally the more effective strategy. Your brain is not broken. It's just trying to protect you from feeling bad, and sometimes that protection gets in the way of the life you actually want. Now you know why. And now you have 3 concrete tools to work with it instead of against it. If this made something click for you, subscribe. Every week we break down one psychology concept that actually changes how you see yourself and the people around you. And if you've got a topic you want us to cover next, drop it in the comments. I read every single one. See you next week.